Enigma Project.
Our own planet is only a tiny part of the vast cosmic tapestry, a starry fabric of worlds yet untold.
For the next 90 minutes, your mind shall become engaged with minds that are very much like your own. Join Paul Kegel, Sushi, and Springwolf as they discuss various topics and people that we all have questions about. You're taking part in the Enigma Project.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Enigma Project. My name is Paul Kegel and tonight we will be talking about Ghost Brothers and our investigation with them aboard the Delta Queen and playing Truth or Tale. But first I would like to introduce my cohorts in this madness, Springwolf.
Hello, hello, hello.
And Sushi.
Hey, everybody.
How are you guys doing, my fair ladies?
Aw.
Peachy?
Fabulous.
Good. So, did you guys got a chance to watch the episode, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, good. So, because we're going to be talking about that here in a little bit. But before we get started in that madness, I want to remind everyone to check out our blog at enigmaproject.com. You can check out upcoming shows we've got coming up. You can suggest shows to us. You can send us questions or comments for our freeform shows, etc., ad nauseum, corpus delicti, delicious corpse. That's a long story. But you can send questions or comments to Paul at enigmaproject.com or call the hotline at 423-521-2930. Don't forget to check out Spring's blog at springwolf.net. And please help spread word about the show so that we can get more listeners. If you don't listen live and you listen on a different format than the live format, then please leave us a review if you enjoyed the show. If you don't, please, never mind, I won't say that. I was going to say something jokingly, and I was like, no, that'd be really, really rude. Started with an F and ended with a U. No, I'm just kidding. But, yeah, please leave a review for the show if you enjoy it so that other people will listen. And maybe one day we can really and truly be famous instead of just infamous, because that's what I am right now. If you're listening live to this right now and you want to join the chat room, or if at any point in time during the month you decide on Monday you want to listen, you can go to enigmaproject.com/listen-live and join us in the chat room and share your questions or comments there. As far as shows coming up, our next week's show is going to be on, what was the one we said was going to be this week, Spring, and we got confused?
Men in
Black.
Black.
Men in Black, that's it. So our next week's show is going to be Men in Black, and that was suggested to us by Rick. Thank you, Rick, for that. And we will be talking about that. So that'll be a lot of fun. Now, how many of you in the chat room, raise your hands, how many of you in the chat room actually got to see the episode that Sushi and I were on of Ghost Brothers? I don't see any hands raised. I'm going to have to punish every single one of you severely. No, I'm just kidding. I see Tater raising one finger. It's the middle one, actually. So there's that. But so you guys did get a chance to watch it.
Yeah, I don't actually have cable TV, so I went other routes, meaning iTunes, and I paid for it legally. So.
Yeah, I did too. I bought it on Amazon. You can buy it for $1.99 for standard definition or $2.99 for the high def.
HD.
Yeah. And Tater said, "You are psychic, see?" Only I think he meant psychotic. I don't think he meant psychic. And I am both, Tater. Thank you. But yeah, I know Tater well enough.
Typo Psycho.
Typo Psycho. That sounds like my nickname in high school. But anyway, But yeah. So basically, this came about because we had investigated the Delta Queen once before in April of 2010, I believe it was. So it was like, 6 years ago. And we've been meaning to write about it. And then two of the people that went with us, if you've ever listened to the Seps Paranormal podcast, you listened to it for a while, you'll know that Rob Freeze was on there for a while with us, and he was my co-writer, almost a co-host. He was my co-writer for Paranormal Journeys. His wife passed away, and so he kind of quit writing for a while, and so we put the Delta Queen, it wasn't a book, it was going to be like Paranormal Journeys 2, and like we were thinking about calling it On Dead Waters or something like that, and writing about the Delta Queen and a couple of other things. But we didn't get a chance because, other things got in the way, and so we never got to it. But Sushi was there on that investigation, and that was rare because she doesn't always get to go on every investigation that we do. A lot of the stuff I talk about, she's like, I wasn't there for that one. I was pregnant at the time, which, to be honest, is like, about 80% of Sushi's life in real life.
Not been pregnant in 4 years, just to have you know.
Yet, this year it just started, girlfriend. No, but you weren't pregnant for that investigation, were you?
I don't, no, I wasn't.
See, she couldn't even remember. But when we did the investigation there, Lee and I actually stayed on the boat. So I had room 109 and he had room 107, and the one in between us, or no, he had 105 and I had 109, and 107 was occupied by someone we didn't know, so we didn't, bug them. But they pretty much, this is back when it was a hotel here in Chattanooga, and we pretty much had our run of the boat. I mean, they let us go anywhere we wanted to, including the wheelhouse. They opened it up for us and let us in there at 3 a.m. or something like that. They were awesome. I mean, they were really great. And they gave us a lot of personal stories and true stories that had happened to some of them. And so it was a really good investigation. We didn't get a lot of data that night, but we did get a couple of EVP. And based on that, we also did a podcast from there. If you guys are familiar with the Seps Paranormal podcast, we actually podcasted from there in the dining area. And based on all of that and all the information that was on our website, we got contacted by Aaron from Pilgrim Media, and they're the people who do Ghost Hunters, and I think they did Ghost Hunters International, and he's worked on Face Off and a couple of other things. And so he contacted me, and he said, we'd really like to have you come down to Houma, Louisiana, and, kind of tell us your story. And if you can't do that, then we would like to just do a Skype interview with you and have you on the show. And I was like, okay, cool, that's doable, but I don't have a car that'll make it down to Houma, because it's, how far away was it, Sushi?
It's like a 12, 13-hour drive.
Yeah. It was, it was way down there. And, so, he was like, well, if worse comes to worse, we can fly you out here, just get you a cheap ticket to fly you out here and back or whatever. And the more we talked about it, he was like, you could do this, we could do that. If you guys can come out here, I'll get you a hotel room, whatever. And I was like, well, if Julie can drive, Sushi can drive, then, she was there on that investigation, then she can drive us down there if she's okay with that. And I contacted her, and she's like, sure, let's do it. And there was a lot of back and forth trying to decide who was going and who wasn't. But in the middle of it, like an hour after I talked to him, Aaron called me back and he said, I just talked to our producers. They want you to be on the show with our investigators. And I was like, sure, why not? You know,
Woohoo!
woohoo. So I said yes, and then they changed the date, and it was all sudden. It was like he called us on, a Wednesday or Thursday, something like that. And by Friday, he said, it's going to be next Thursday. Can you guys make it down here? And we're like, sure. So we both got off from work, and we drove 13 hours down there to get there. Sushi, what was your impression of this whole process at the beginning?
Well, yeah, it was a little. We did a lot of back and forth. You know, was Julie going? Sushi going? Was Julie not going? There was a phone in. I had to do a phone interview, and then, first it was this date, and that was the other date, and
Yeah,
I
because
was like,
originally they contacted us on like a Thursday, and then said, we want you here Saturday. And then they changed it.
yeah, and then they changed it to the middle of the week, and I was like, middle of the week, okay. So, but we worked it out. We worked it out, and drove our butts down there
Now, what was
in one fell swoop.
what was interesting about the whole thing, about the show, was that we recorded a lot more than what they showed.
Yes, we did.
Including
Yes, we did.
interviews. And the one complaint that I have about the whole thing is that when they were cleaning up the audio and video, they did not make me look like Tom Cruise. They left me looking like myself, which I'm not happy about, and I'm going to have
Darn it.
words with Aaron when I speak to him again. Now, the one complaint that I had about
Pick
it,
somebody else besides you want to look at some. I hope you tell him you want to look like someone else besides Tom Cruise. There, I finally got it out.
and you know what, I would settle for anyone, not me. But anyway, so the only complaint I have about it is that during the interview process, when they asked us about who we were, I say, my name is Paul Cagle. I'm with the Southeastern Paranormal Society located in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And they cut that out and left, I'm Paul Cagle, and they put under our names, Paranormal Enthusiasts. So Sushi,
No mention of our group at all.
yeah. So Sushi, what did you
Like,
think about
man.
that?
No, that kind of, I was like, paranormal enthusiast. Gosh. You know, my daughter is a paranormal enthusiast. I've kind of been doing this a little longer, I think, you know, to be called just an enthusiast. I don't know. I would have rather seen Paranormal Investigator, or you know, Southeastern Paranormal Society under my name or something like that. But you know, it is what it is.
Right. And, you know, I'm glad they didn't put expert, because we're not.
No, expert. No, I would not
Yeah.
be comfortable with expert.
And we've talked
No.
about that before, is there are no experts really in the paranormal field because there is no commonality to determine what an expert is.
Right.
Too bad, you know, Spring didn't live closer. We could have got her on the show with us, and we could all just had fun that night. But
They were, I tell you, the guys were just as nice as could be. And just really, really, I mean, and the production crew too, very welcoming. And, you know, the one thing that bothered me and that is how much we were coached, you know, so
yeah,
it's like, okay, so stop and say that exactly like this. And, oh, hey, you say this, and then you say that. And, you know, they were coaching their investigators along the whole time too. That kind of rubbed me a little bit the wrong way. But it is reality television. We know reality television isn't really reality.
well,
So,
and part of it was they were trying to get across who we were and what we were doing without a script, you know.
Right.
And the guys, Dalen, Jawan, and Marcus, this was only like their fourth or fifth show, which they only got 6 for the season, but they were they were not familiar enough with it yet to really kind of run the show. You know, like on this show, we have a certain format, even though we technically don't really have a format. We know how the show's going to go. I'm going to do my opening. I'm going to ask you guys how you are. We're going to talk a little bit about how to find us on the web, you know, what to do. We're going to tell you what the show is. Usually we tell you how it came about, and then we start talking, and then we ask questions back and forth and discuss topics. They were new enough that they didn't quite have the format down. So, but Sushi is right. There was a lot of, okay, ask that question again, Marcus, but do it quicker this time. You took way too long to ask that question. Ask it again. And then they would record from a certain angle, and then they would say, okay, now we're going to record just the three guys. Do that all over again. And so then it would be the exact same thing all over again. And then they would go, now we're going to record Julie and Paul. Do it all over again. And we would do it all over again, and they would record just us. And then they would go, okay, now we're going to do a wide shot. Do it all over again. And, you know, we did it multiple times. And Marcus, at one point in time, he goes, you guys are really good at this. Have you done TV before? And I was like, no, but we have a podcast where we would do take twos, and we'd have to remember where we started so we would know what we wanted to say so that it fit into editing. Back when we used to just record the show and I would edit it and put it out. Now that we do live shows, I don't have to do that anymore. If we flub, we just flub. And I've kind of gotten used to that, and it's okay. But there was a lot of that. One of the things that I kind of wish that they had showed, and they didn't, was there was no air aboard the boat. Well, no air. We would have suffocated. There was no air conditioning on the boat. There was no power to it. There were holes in it. I mean, they said in certain areas, be careful because you'll fall through the floors, that kind of thing. And they got us mic'd up, and they got us in there. Now, before we went down there, they didn't tell us anything about what this show was about, who was on it, nothing. They just said Ghost Brothers. And half the time I couldn't remember what it was called. I kept calling it Paranormal Brothers and Ghost Adventure Brothers and Ghost Hunter Brothers, and I never got it right. But, you know, and we had to sign confidentiality agreements that we wouldn't tell anything about it or our investigation at the time. And honestly, I don't know if we can legally talk about a whole bunch of it right now, but whatever. If it gets them attention, I think positive attention, I think they'll be, okay with it. And Spring,
You mean you couldn't say anything until after it aired?
Right.
Right.
And Spring, if you have any questions, feel free to jump in with, I'm just trying to give a basis of what happened, but there was so much that it's kind of hard to just get it out in one fell swoop without going through the whole process. So if anything I'm missing or you have questions about, please feel free to jump in and ask or whatever. But so on the way down there, and I've told this on the show before, I said, you know what would make a really great ghost hunting show? An all-black ghost hunting team. And Sushi was like, yeah, there's not one, is there? And I said, no, not really. And we got down there, and nobody told us anything. It's just all of a sudden these three tall guys walk onto the boat, and as they walked on, nobody said, oh, here comes the talent or whatever. They just started talking to everybody, and then they started introducing themselves to us. And Sushi was like, you were right. And I was like, yep. She's like, you called it. And I was like, yeah, I don't know what made me say it on the way down there, but it just popped in my head. And I was like, it'd make a really great show. And so they introduced themselves, and we got to talking to them. A couple of things that didn't make it on the show that I wish kind of had, because it would have been funny, was Marcus was introducing them, and he said, this is Dalen, he's this is Jawan, he's this, and my name is Marcus, and I'm the funny one. And I said, well, you were, but I'm here now. So, he's like, oh, we got one of those on board. And, I should have said, what do you mean by one of those? What is that supposed to mean? And just got all up in arms, but I didn't. But it
was funny that they introduced you as a couple.
Oh my God. They kept asking if we were a couple. And they kept saying, well, you two go hunt together. You're a couple. You know what we're talking about. We're like, no.
We're not a couple.
No. And finally, Marcus just asked straight out. He said, are you two together? Are you a couple? And the reason he was doing that was because he kept flirting with a certain diva that was there. And no, it wasn't me.
No, it was not.
Oh, yes, he was. Listen to the show. At one point in time, when you say something about the EVP that you found, he goes, okay, Julie, sweetie, let's get this started. And I was like, he didn't call me sweetie.
No. Because I was the only girl there.
Well, that's true. That's probably rare for them. But, yeah, but they were really great. And the other part...
I thought they were pretty funny.
Yeah, they were funny.
Yes, they are.
That was so funny when he ate the po' boy.
Oh, I was dying.
That was so fun. You look around, he's eating it, and Jason's like, "What? Do you normally eat the trigger object?" And he was just kind of lost. That was funny.
Like, I'm not. This is my first investigation, but I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to eat the trigger.
That was very funny.
That was very cute.
But the one funny thing that they left in there that I said was, and I'm surprised nobody yelled at me for it, was when I sit down on the bed and it creaks. Now, we're in a pitch black room. You guys can see fine because they've got the IR illumination in there, so it lights up the whole room. We are in a pitch black room. We can't see, we can barely see each other because the only reason I could see anyone was because of Julie's iPad.
The light from the iPad was the only light.
And that was the only light we had that we could see by. And Marcus was sitting in the chair, and Sushi was sitting, and I'll jump back and forth between Julie and Sushi because I called you Julie on the show, and then I call you Sushi on this show, just for those people who are confused. She's the same person. But, so, we sit down, and the bed makes a weird sound, and Marcus kind of looks over at me. I went, ooh, baby got a little gas. And when I saw that on there, I lost it. I laughed so hard, I was almost crying. Because I'd forgotten I said it. I'm glad they left it, too. And Marcus was like, I'm glad you said something, because I thought that was you at first. And but it was the bed creaked when I sat down. But, woo, baby got a little gas. And that's from The Clumps, if you guys have ever seen it.
Yeah.
I've got a friend of mine and I quote that movie all the time. And the next thing that comes out of the woman's mouth when she says, oh, baby, get a little gas, she starts going, Hercules, 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 and clapping her hands. It is honestly a miracle that I did not do that part along with it. Because my friend Beth and I do that all the time. We go, oh, baby, get a little gas. Oh, Hercules, Hercules, Hercules. And it's a miracle I didn't do that. But I'm just glad they didn't take offense to it or anything, or think I was making fun of somebody,
Right.
I was just doing the Eddie Murphy thing, but I was like, oh Lord, only I could have 5 minutes on TV and offend a whole culture, But yeah. So
what was the application on your tablet that you were using to do?
Oh,
the
girl,
EVP?
I wish you'd not asked me that. I think it's just called Voice Record, and it's a little free app. And they had to the bottom of the screen they had blacked it out because it's because it's free. You get all these ads at the bottom.
Voice Record is not sponsored by the Enigma Project, nor is the Enigma Project sponsored by Voice Record. We are simply talking about an app that Sushi used while on an investigation. Ding!
Ding! I like it because it has the little needles, and you can watch the needles. They'll jump around, like a soundboard. So I like it. I like that little app, and you can put little bookmarks on there. So if you're reviewing evidence and you hear something, you can just put a little bookmark and type a note and go. So it's really nice.
And we actually did kind of find an EVP that way because and you see it on the show. I'm watching it and we ask a question and it jumps and I say, oh, that jumped and nobody said anything. Check it. And we have something that kind of sounds like it's saying yes or yeah or something like that. And it is one of those weird EVP that are hard to hear, but I heard it.
Definitely not a high class EVP.
Yeah. But, watching the show, I actually heard the EVP on there, and I thought that was interesting.
Is it just for voice recording, or is it made for EVPs?
It really, it's just made to record, and to record.
You could do
can
anything
record a
with it. You could
podcast
do-
on it, you
yeah.
can record, whatever. It's not specifically made for EVPs, but it does. You can like email your audio files to whoever, and so record.
And it's got a light, which a lot of recorders don't have, so you can actually look at. It's got a needle on it that moves as you talk. And if you say, "Are you here with us now?" and everyone gets quiet, and that needle still jumps, then that means it picked up
Something's
a
up.
sound somewhere, whether it's an EVP or something we
you're
didn't
gonna
hear.
need to find out who makes the app and what the name is it, because I'm sure we've got listeners that want to know.
Yeah, I
Like
will.
Me.
If we had a break on this show, I would go get it and take a look. But maybe I can yell at a kid.
You've got 4 gophers. Go tell somebody to get it.
All right, I'm going to mute and have them get it.
Okay. So, we did that, and, yep, there you go, Tater. Hercules, Hercules, Hercules. That's what I was doing. He put a picture in the chat room. If you're not in the chat room, you're missing some stimulating conversation and pictures
We always
that,
have fun in the chat room at our expense sometimes.
I'm okay with that. There's a lot to work with here.
Okay, my gophers are working.
Yeah.
All right.
So, now, that's where the episode ends for us. But we actually had more investigating time with Marcus. We went downstairs to the I always want to say kitchen. It's not the kitchen area.
It's like a ballroom.
Yeah,
area.
it used to be like a ballroom area, but now they turned it into a restaurant later, and it's where all the tables are, and that's where we actually podcasted from when we were doing the show. Evil says, I think Paul was a Southern black woman in a past life. I would agree with you 100%, Evil, and if not, I'm coming back as one, because I love black women, Southern black women, and their sassiness. There's something about it that I find fascinating. So I
Okay.
Fearless.
have an inner
name-
black woman.
Real quick, the name of the app is Voice Record Pro
Bye.
by
Manhun.
I don't know.
Yeah, we never figured that out because Marcus asked us as well, and we never could figure out who made it. That was about
Yeah.
as far as we got. And again, Voice Record Pro is not sponsored by the Enigma Project, nor is the Enigma Project sponsored by
Diana, Dayana Networks Limited.
the Enigma Project is not sponsored
4.5
by
stars.
Diana Networks Limited, nor is Diana's Network Limited sponsored by the Enigma Project.
You're welcome.
All opinions here are heard. All opinions heard here are the Enigma Project's opinions and are not sponsored opinions.
Spell it again.
Dayana.
I'm not even sure it's legal for us to be talking about this like this. So,
Oh, really? Sorry.
yes, that's why they didn't show it on the show, Sushi.
Well, they
Well,
would have
but-
to. They would probably have to pay royalties or something.
Yeah. I think we can say what we use.
Yeah. So, anyway, yeah, galley. We were in the galley. So, here's the story, and then I'll let Sushi tell you the rest of it because she actually had an experience down there.
Yay.
So when we were there the first time, our investigator Lee Brown was down there, and the story goes that Ma Green, who owned the boat, was a teetotaler and did not allow alcohol on her boat at all. She didn't like it. She didn't allow it. After she passed away, they decided to put a bar down there in that little kitchen area where there's a kitchen now. And the first night the bar was open, now she'd already passed away at this point, but the first night that bar opened, the boat was hit by a barge that was named the Mary G. I think it was Mary G. And the barge was named after Mary Green, or Ma Green, who owned the Delta Queen. And the only part it hit and destroyed was the bar area. The rest of the ship was fine. It only hit and broke the bar. And that was the very first night it was open. And so a lot of people say that the ghost of Mary Green made the barge hit the boat. So we're downstairs in that area, and Lee had worked on the Delta Queen as a bartender upstairs. And he asked, on the EVP he asks, or on the EVP, on the recorder he asks, Ma Green, are you the reason that boat hit the Delta Queen and destroyed the bar? And you hear a woman correct him and say, barge. Because it wasn't a boat that hit it, it was a barge that hit it. And then again later on he says, are you the reason why that boat hit the Delta Queen? And again a woman corrects him and says, barge. Because it was a barge that hit the Delta Queen. And we told them this story, and they were like, okay, take Julie and Paul down there and investigate with them. And so they took us down there to see if we could get any EVP or anything to respond to us, since we'd gotten EVP down there before. And Sushi?
Uh-huh. Yeah, so while we were working some EVP by the bar area, or where there's still a empty counter, and I'm looking across. It's a very open area of the ship. There's lots of tables and chairs, and that's why I always think of it as a ballroom or banquet room. So I'm looking across the almost half the boat, and I see something move across the other end of the hall. And I just said, I think I see something moving down there. And man, you talk about cameras jumping in my face right as soon as I said that. And we tried to recreate it. We sent, like, Marcus went down there, or we walked down that way. And then we had Marcus try to move back and forth. He said, did it move like this? Did it move like this? And meanwhile, I'm just snickering under my breath because he is so much larger than than what I saw move across the room. I wish I'd left it in, because and then I started playing with him. I was like, try going a little faster. So it's making him run back and forth. And I'm over there snickering under my breath.
They might have got that on the audio. That may be why they cut it
and
out.
Maybe
Thanks,
why they
Sushi.
cut it out, because I was teasing him. But it was funny.
It was funny.
So and even Paul was like, for Julie to say that she saw something is kind of a big deal. And then they took me off to the side and interviewed me, and coached me and interviewed me some more. And she was like, just be as detailed as you can. And I was like, okay, but no, didn't use any of that. I was like, okay. But I think, Paul, you and I maybe recorded for 3 hours, maybe.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in twice, at different times. There was the interview, there was the room, and then there was this hall or banquet or galley area. So I get it that they couldn't use it all. So it didn't really hurt my feelings. I was almost relieved that they didn't use my interview, because that of all the footage that they took, that was the one thing I was the most nervous about.
Really?
Yeah, it really was, because I knew it was just me talking. and that was the one thing I was like, oh my gosh, I wonder if they used it. Oh my gosh. So I'll never know, though. Never know what they were thinking.
One of the things that friends of mine were laughing at was when they interview us the first time. Now, we talked to the guys a little bit before the show started, and before they started recording, and they kind of introduced themselves again, and we introduce ourselves to them, but it's mainly to introduce ourselves to the audience, which, like I said, they cut most of that out. But what was I going to say? Damn you, ADD! I got so much going on in my head that I can't keep up with it. But no, when they asked us, they said, "So, what do you guys think about investigating with us tonight?" We already knew we were going to be investigating with them, because that's the whole reason we went down there. Aaron had already set that up. We were already confirmed for the investigation. And they're playing it off as, oh, you know what? Let's have them investigate with us. How about that? And Sushi, they said, Sushi's very enthusiastic. She's like, okay, thanks. I'm like, yeah, okay. Sure, whatever. And they were laughing at me about it, because they're like, Sushi sounds like she's excited. You act like you're bored. And I was like, no, it's just that we already knew it's what we came down there for. And we're like, okay. But there were a whole bunch of takes that we did where at one point in time, when I'm talking about being the funny one, Marcus walks up to us and he puts his arm around me and Julie and he says, you know what? I think I'm going to replace my brothers on this show with you two. What do you think about that? We're like, sure, okay. He's like, all right, let's go investigate. And he walks off with us. And we did that take a couple of times, and they left that out. That was one of the ones I wanted them to leave in. But the other thing that I wish they'd left in is it is like really, really hot in there. Like I said, no air conditioning. We're sweating. And at one point in time, you see Marcus pull out his washcloth and wipe his face down in the room. And at one point in time, I'm sitting there talking, and they're focused on me and asking me a question. And I've got a wad of paper towels in my hand that the production staff had given me that I'd wipe my face down with. They're like, okay, we're recording. And I'm just sitting there holding it. And I realized that at some point that, oh my God, the camera's trained on me and I'm holding a wad of paper towels. And so I slowly move it behind my back so that you don't see it, just in case they pan down or something. But I sort of kind of wish they'd kept that part because it was sort of funny. Sushi, what part do you wish they'd kept? Sushi? Spring?
Yeah. Uh-oh. I'm here.
Sushi.
I'm sorry. I was muted because my daughter came in again. I'm sorry. The part that I wish they had left in was the bit with Marcus when he was reenacting the movement that I had seen. I just thought that was hysterical.
Yeah, she had him down there running back and forth. He's like this? And she's like, a little bit faster. He's like this? And she's like, a little bit more from this side to that side. He's like this? That would have been perfect. And Tater, that's not the picture, Tater. But, oh my God, look at my hair in that picture, though.
No, this is after this is the last thing we did before we left the boat. And
this is the good picture. That's the sad part. That's the good picture of us. Julie photographed really well. I look like I've been hit by a truck. I just got my hair cut. I was trying to get it to do something, and we're in humidity in Louisiana, and I just from being so hot and so wet, my hair was starting to do these weird things where I look like I have horns or something, which honestly in my case could be the truth, but my hair pretty much looks like I got hit by lightning or something. And I was like, that's the best picture I got, so I'll send it. But yeah, we got like 3 or 4 pictures with the guys. And Sushi, I don't know what happened to yours. I've not seen them.
I sent them to him. I'm not, but I don't know whatever happened to him.
I haven't seen the ones you took, but before we left, I said, because they called lunch at midnight, and basically said, they fed us and they got us hotel rooms, and the hotel rooms were nice. They had full kitchens with refrigerators and stoves and
a cushy bed. It was nice.
Yeah, it was nice. And some diva had to have a wardrobe change in the middle of the show. I'm not going to name names. Julie Kurtz-Kunish, also known as Sushi.
I've been driving 13 hours.
So did I, but I didn't do a wardrobe change. That's why I look like hell, probably.
I had to freshen up, put some makeup on,
Yeah, I should have put some makeup on to cover all this. But, yeah, it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it, and I'm glad we got to do it. I just wish they'd shown more of our investigation. But what was funny is the scene where they're showing them getting out of the car with Jason, and they're getting ready to walk up on the boat, and it's midnight, or it's dark outside. We were there for that recording. And there were so many. We had just gotten there, and there were so many mosquitoes in the air that I'm trying to avoid West Nile and SARS and everything else, and I'm shaking my arms back and forth, just windmilling them to keep the bugs off of me, and I'm slapping mosquitoes out of the air unintentionally. That's how many there were. And of course, Captain Mike, had told us, "Oh, there's a gator out here. If you look for him, you can find him." And after they did our initial interview, they called a break, and we all stepped outside to the side of the boat with the water. And Captain Mike was like, if you look out there, you can see the gator. He's out there somewhere. He comes up out of the water on the land, so be careful, at night, and et cetera, et cetera. And we're just all talking about it. So while they're recording that part, we're standing out there in the dark with part of the production team. And I keep looking behind me, expecting the alligator to be sneaking up on us, do, and I turn around, it's like, nope, I'm just a harmless cat, yeah. And there being an alligator ready to eat us. It'd be like, on this episode, Paul Kegel and Sushi is going to be on this episode because Paul got eaten by an alligator. But it was a lot of fun, and it was nice being back on the Delta Queen.
So my takeaway from this was, and as we were driving home, and Paul,
I already know what you're going to say.
Paul's looking at me going, "Gosh, how do I get my own show? How do I get?" And I look at him and said, "I would hate it. I would absolutely hate. I am not. Don't get me wrong. I'm so glad that I did that. It's something I can mark it off my bucket list. And by God, it put me 1 degree of separation from Mike Rowe, so
which she's been talking about on Facebook.
I am very happy about that. Which, Spring, you are now 2 degrees of separation from Mike Rowe. How cool is that?
That's cool.
So I'm like, yeah, I'm so glad I did it. I would not want to do that for a living.
For any producers out there, I want my own show. I'm up for it.
Paul his own show. I will be a guest every now and then, but I am not ready to drop everything and travel the country to do a reality TV show. Not happening.
Well, I think that once you get it down, and once they get it down, they won't need the producers as much, the field producer as much, to tell them, because they would do a take, and they would stop and say, okay, now Marcus, ask them about their experiences aboard the boat. And so they would have to kind of stop and think about it for a minute, and they, Marcus would be like, so, Julie and Paul, tell me about your experiences on the boat. And try to make it sound fresh and new and exciting, like he had just thought of it. But it wasn't like they said, okay, now pretend you heard this over here, and everybody jump and go, it wasn't anything like that. It was, It was a lot of, okay, Marcus, that was really good, but you rambled a lot. So say that again, but with less uhs and spaces in between it.
I think they did make me re-say, I think I saw something move down there. As I recall, I had to do another take with that.
Well, I think they did, but it was because the camera was trained on Marcus.
Camera was rolling, yeah, or was looking at somebody else.
Yeah, and they did that in the room a lot. And outside of room 109, when we're recording in there, we have 4 people stuffed in that little bitty room, and like I said, it's pitch black, and you can't really tell it because they've got the IR cameras on, so it looks really lit up, but it's pretty much pitch black in there. And short of that that app that Sushi was using, we couldn't see each other at all. And so we get in there, and it's Sushi, Marcus sitting in the chair, and Sushi and I sitting on the bed, and the cameraman stuffed into the corner as far away from us as he can get, trying to get the shots. And it is hot as all get out in there. I mean, we're pouring sweat. That's why I'm glistening on that episode, is because we're pouring sweat. And the field producer is sitting right outside the door at a table, which is the table that we built the Scooby-Doo puzzle on when we did the investigation there. But she's sitting out there at a table watching on a monitor and calling in stuff to the cameraman through an earpiece. So every now and again we hear, and he'll go, hold on just a second. Okay. She wants you to say that again, Sushi. And then he, because the camera's not pointed at her, and we can't tell because we're in the dark, and we're not looking at the camera. There's that fourth wall or whatever it's called, where unless you're speaking to the audience, you're not supposed to look at the camera. And so there was a lot of, okay, Marcus, ask that question again. I was focused on Julie, so ask it again from the top. Go. And then he would say, oh, you got an EVP. And they go, okay, Julie, hold on. Now, Julie, you respond. Because we couldn't tell when the camera was pointed at us, and so we didn't wait to respond. We just started talking. And he'd go, okay, now, Paul, you said something. Say that again. And he would move the camera so it was focused on me. So it's not like they're faking anything or they're leading them to say things, but they do give them questions. Like they'll say, oh, the producer wants you to ask Julie and Paul if they've ever been touched here. And so Marcus goes, okay, so Julie and Paul, have you guys ever been touched here? And we're like, oh, no. And we have to act like that's the first time we've heard the question.
Right.
So it was more stuff like that. And I think that once Marcus, Dalen, and Jawan get used to it, I think there'll be less of that. But with it being a brand new show and no one knowing who they are, then there was a lot of kind of direction from the field producer saying, okay, well, we're going to do this again, but I want you to say it a lot faster. And this time, as soon as they say it, focus on Julie so she can answer. And at one point in time, Marcus was like, you guys are really good at this. I already told that, didn't I? But and he was like, you guys aren't nervous at all. And we're like, we do a live radio show with, 4 listeners. So, we're not nervous even a little bit. No, but we did have a lot of fun. I mean, it was a lot of fun.
So before we run out of time, I want to ask a couple questions now that we have a nice overview.
Okay. Yeah, that took forever.
There were 2 things that happened on the episode that I thought were really interesting. The first one, they went to the bridge and they put a flashlight down and they talked to the lady captain that they said haunted the place. And the flashlight turned on and off when they were asking her questions.
Right.
Has that ever happened to you guys? Have you ever done anything like that before?
Sushi, would you like to take this one?
Well, I have tried the flashlight technique with absolutely no good results.
Now, you have to be careful with the flashlight technique because what you're doing is you take a flashlight, you turn it on, and then you unscrew it to the point where it no longer has a full connection. If you tap it, the wire still touches and gives you, turns the light on. So what you're doing is you're creating a very manipulatable situation with that. Any shift of the flashlight could turn it on. Any cooling down or heating up of the flashlight could turn it on or off, either way. So you really have to be careful with that. Normally what you're looking for in that situation is if the flashlight answers your question immediately. And normally, and they didn't do this on the show, normally what you say is 2 flashes means yes, 3 flashes means no, or vice versa. 2 flashes means no, 3 flashes mean yes. And you say, is there anyone here with us now? And it's supposed to flash the number of times that you've designated for yes, and then you've got your answer.
What was more impressive to me was when they were using the REM pod and the flashlight at the same time, and they all came on together. That was more impressive to me than just when they were just using the flashlight.
I agree, because twice it responded at the exact same time. Now, I don't think a flashlight by itself will set off a REM pod, will it, Sushi?
I don't think so.
Because the REM pod is in relation to the antenna. So what you try to do is you try to get something to respond to you or change its colors by moving closer to the antenna, and it will even pick up on live human beings. So like if I reach to the antenna, you'll get a tone, And the closer I get, the higher that tone gets. And when I touch the antenna, it goes to a high-pitched tone. And it also does colors based on how close you are in proximity to that antenna. So having something turn the flashlight on and make that go off at the exact same moment twice is kind of a big deal.
Yeah, that was much more impressive to me than just when they had up the flashlight up in the wheelhouse or wherever. Yeah, they were in the wheelhouse.
Right, and again, we weren't there for that part. So
yeah, they were there for 2 or 3 days. we were there for one.
Yeah, we were there for a couple of hours. But what was your other question?
I don't remember where they were, but they had a device that was round. It has 2 lights on the top,
That's the REM.
That's the REM pod.
REM pod.
And it actually has 4 or 5 lights on it. It's like yellow, green, red, blue. Maybe it's only 4. And what you're supposed to be able to do with that thing, like I said, is a proximity sensor to the antenna. And you extend the antenna and you say, can you make it light up to red? And then something interacts with the antenna to make it go to red and then stops. And you could do it, like I said, you could do it as well. Like if I wanted to show them how to do it, I would say, can you do this? And I would put my finger close to the antenna until it went to red and stop. And then pull it back out and it would stop. And then say, can you make it go to blue like this? And then I put my finger close to it until it goes to blue and stop. And then you try to get something to mimic that, to show an intelligent haunting.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I would, after seeing that episode, I wouldn't mind, you know how I've said before, I don't want to go on an investigation with you guys.
Yeah.
If it was like that one, I wouldn't mind going. There was a place where they walked in the room and they were asking questions, and they were trying to, I think they were asking if the person was the captain, if the ghost was a captain, or if the ghost was a crew member and what crew member they were. They were trying to get, like a yes or no questions. As a psychic that can talk to ghosts, I would probably be able to hear the answer, not have to ask the yes or no questions.
And see, that I've always been fascinated by that.
I would like to put myself to the test, so to speak.
Yeah, I've always been fascinated by that, and that's why I've always asked you if you would go, because I would be interested to have you along for that very reason, to see if, like if you said, oh, there's something here with us now, I see it right there, and we go, okay, can you interact with the REM pod, and then we get a response. That kind of thing to me would be fascinating, to find out if we could actually get that.
That would be interesting.
Because I've never gone on an investigation with someone who could actually see spirits. I've only gone with like psychics or people who can kind of sense energy like myself. So that would be interesting. I would like that. So we're going to have to make that happen one day. Even if it's during the day, that would be fine as well. Because we've said this on the show before, paranormal activity happens during the day as well as at night. It's not just at night. So
Right.
that would be interesting. But do you have any more quick questions? Because we got to move on. We've only got like 7 minutes left.
No, the app that Sushi was talking about, that you see on the show, is only for Apple products. They don't make it
Really?
for
Yes.
Androids.
Yeah.
Right.
didn't
And
know that.
so I went looking for Android equivalent because that's what I have, and I've updated my post on my blog for next on the Enigma Project Ghostbusters. I put 3 alternatives on there that kind of look like the app that Julie is using.
All right.
Okay.
There you go.
Ginny said if Spring goes, she wants to go too, and I said okay. All right. So we are going to move on to Truth or Tell, and basically this is a game, if you're not familiar with it, where I have 3 stories that I'm going to read, and you have to decide if it's crazy enough to be true or just so stupid that I made it up, and honestly sometimes you can't tell the difference. So number 1, police in London investigate a man driving a giant foot. Truth or Tell. Police in London investigate a man driving a giant foot. Truth or tale?
What? Driving?
You
a
heard me,
giant
girl.
foot.
Okay, I don't know why they'd want to investigate him. That's like saying you're going to investigate the driver of the Oscar Mayer Wiener.
I wish you were an Oscar Mayer wiener.
So I'll say true just because
yes.
it sounds funny.
Yes, because that is hysterical. I say true.
Okay. That is the truth. Let's see. So the bizarre incident left witnesses baffled. Police in London were left perplexed this week after a man was spotted driving a rather peculiar vehicle. The gigantic motorized foot, which was being driven along the streets of the British capital by a man wearing a silver costume and crash helmet, ended up becoming something of a social media sensation when a local police department posted a picture of it online. It was eventually revealed that the stunt was part of a promotion for the Wandsworth Arts Fringe Festival, and that the idea for it had been masterminded by the Ministry of Silly Ideas. And they got several phone calls about it, which is part of the reason why they
Ministry of
investigated
Silly
it.
Ideas. It's like the Ministry of Silly Walks.
Yeah. This parrot has ceased to be. It is no more.
It is
All
an
right.
ex-parrot.
So number 2, a new pop-up book released by Stephen King and sold solely in China is thought to release trapped spirits into your home. Truth or tale? A new pop-up book released by Stephen King and sold solely in China is thought to release trapped spirits into your home. Truth or tale?
You made
Okay,
that
that
up.
would be a huge moneymaker. I'm going to say yes just because.
She's going to say
Tail, you
truth,
totally made that up.
and you're going to say tale.
And you threw China in there just to throw us off.
Did I? Rick says tail. Okay. That is a tail. I
See,
completely
that's a
made it up.
shame. Somebody's got to make that now.
Yeah, I wanted pop-up book Stephen King in China in there. So, and when I read it in my mind, I read a new poop-up book. And I was like, no, that's not it. All right. So number 3, after a recent study, scientists now believe that conscious awareness and subjective experience may be common in insects. Truth or tale? After a recent study, scientists now believe that conscious awareness and subjective experience may be common in insects. Insects. Truth or tale?
True.
I was going to say, I don't know how you would test for that, but I'm going true also.
Okay. That is the truth.
Wow.
New study claims that insects are conscious. How do insects perceive the world? Scientists now believe that conscious awareness and subjective experience may be common in insects. The notion that insects possess only a rudimentary perception of the world might soon be set to change thanks to a major new research paper published by scientists at Macquarie University. The results of the study suggest that insects are not only conscious but also exhibit egocentric behavior, something that may have arisen over 500 million years ago in the Cambrian period. When you and I are hungry, we don't just move towards food. Our hunger also has a particular feeling associated with it, said study co-author and philosopher Dr. Colin Klein. An organism has subjective experience if its mental states feel like something when they happen. The researchers focused their studies on the midbrain, part of the brain that supports awareness, and which appears to function in a similar manner in insects as it does in humans. That is not to say, however, that an insect's conscious experiences will be the same as our own. Their experience of the world is not as rich or as detailed as our experience. Our big neocortex adds something to life, the scientists wrote, but it feels like something to be a bee. And I thought that was interesting because I saw it a couple of weeks ago, but this was a better article. So I thought that was interesting. So they may have consciousness and be subjective to what they learn. But unfortunately, that is going to wrap it up for this episode of the Enigma Project. Thanks to everyone who listened in the chat room, all the people who listen live, everyone who listens on the various and sundry other places. We appreciate it. Please help spread the word about the show and get your friends to listen. If you ever see us on the street, ask us. We will sign autographs for a fee. But no, I'm just kidding. But that's going to wrap it up. Join us next Monday when we are going to be talking about Men in Black. And again, that was the show that Rick suggested. We appreciate that, and we will be talking about it then. Bye, everybody. Have a great Monday and great rest of the week.
Bye.